So, welcome to Satsang. At a little after 5 o'clock in the morning in Varanasi, and 6:30 or so in the East Coast. Andrew, you always have such subtle inquiries. I'm wondering if you would be willing to share something with us this morning that's been alive for you in the last few days.
Thanks. Yes, I'd be happy to. It's a matter of choosing the right one. Yes. It feels prominent right now is it's almost like there are two I probably have spoken to you about this before, but there are two shifts that are happening. One seemingly takes place over time. It's a sort of a gradual shift that I notice in myself in terms of my behavior, what's important to me, how I feel, becoming more and more peaceful over time is the general trend. And then through the progress of that, there are also many difficulties and many challenges, and it can be quite difficult. And there's another whole dimension of my experience that doesn't change at all. It is not changing. It is completely constant, and of course it's has no characteristics, seemingly to me. It's just awareness. But I'm also noticing a shift in relation to this as well, in that more and more that neutral observer that I'm calling awareness is, I guess, more prominent in my experience through all the difficulties, through the progress that seemingly takes place over time. Both of these, maybe I'll call them my nature. Both of these aspects of that are I don't know, undergoing a shift, you could say. Even though one of them doesn't change at all, although I guess I could say I'm inhabiting that neutralness more often. So my question is, it's so hard to ask. At some point, are these seemingly two separate progressions, do they merge at some point? Is there an integration? Am I seeing one thing? Am I seeing one thing that appears just as two separate things? I hope this makes sense.
Yes, of course. That's very good. Thank you. Have you ever heard the expression, these days, my worst day is better by far than my worst day from before? So there is this slow arc. Let's say, for the spiritual seeker, a slow arc of ascending in frequency, vibration, more and more peaceful. And it's important to take notice. Simple things like anniversaries or birthdays, some milestones to reflect on how far you've come. It keeps us in the game, which is a marathon for the most part. It's important to reflect on this. It's especially helpful when you're feeling frustrated or down, and to really be objective and reflect on what was it like for you a year ago, 2 or 3 years ago. What did it feel like to be you then? And even in this moment, that feels a bit frustrating or depressed. It's nice, I think, to give ourselves some comfort in that. On this gradual arc, there are blips. The sense of the me, the person, which you would call the me. I guess we could say the I sense. The I sense, it wavers and fluctuates, doesn't it? The arc itself is a fluctuation, contrast from here to there. And then on the arc there are fluctuations, yes? And on the fluctuations there are fluctuations. If you can look very, very closely ad infinitum, with every blink of the eye, maybe we can say it this way, that our experience of being, our sensory, direct experience of being, operates within an octave, a range of 7 notes. Do they call it an octave 7 or 8? Who knows the answer to this? I think in a C scale it starts at C and the 8th is also a C. But anyway. So we're operating within an octave of frequency, of vibration, sound. As sound, in sound. Those fluctuations are vibrational. They're interpreted as psychological, emotional, and physical, but fundamentally, they're fluctuations in vibration, in sound. It's a funny thing to contemplate that, we are actually more sound than we are material. Om. And so let's say we have an octave. Let me see if I get it right here. We have an octave, and within this octave, you're fluctuating. But the octave is also slightly shifting. And you're shifting within this. And which one do you identify with? And there's the awareness that's aware of the octave, and there's the awareness of the notes within the octave, and then there's the awareness of none of that, which is simply pure awareness. And through the function of mind, reflecting on past, we identify our range of experience, the environment of experience, what you call my world, as that octave, the landscape you exist in, also is you. And then the person in the environment, which you think of as you, is having this fluctuating experience, contrast. Pairs of opposites, high, low, in, out. Good, bad, right, wrong. Male, female. So this contrast is essential for experience. A sense of you and the environment you exist in, you and the world, what you call world, which also is you. A you that is really more of a we. Is it getting too too esoteric?
No, I'm with you.
I thought so. So are there three of you? And what if you're identified as the person, the notes fluctuating, fluid, in the octave of what you call world, and the one who is simply aware of all of that, well, there is a fourth too, generally referred to as Turiya. I only know this by inference, not by experience, to be clear. But this one is pure awareness. No subject-object relationship. This is the fourth state, or the stateless state. I believe it's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirguna Brahman. Without any fluctuation, without any subject-object. Suguna Brahman. This one is with the characteristics of the world, sits as I, that is the totality of the we. I don't know if it's theologically accurate, but I think of this as Corpus Christi. In Hindu tradition, I believe it's called Ishwara. Maybe Buddha being. The I that is the totality. I alone exist as all these things. I alone exist as all these names and forms. But somehow, drilled in, identified as a fragment of self. Somehow, the object of awareness is imbued with a sense of I. The insentient, the body, the insentient, the mind, is somehow imbued with I, with sentience, with existence. But this existence is borrowed only. And yet somehow, I don't know how. If you find it, please tell me. Somehow, the essence identifies as name and form. You take a gold earring, and you call it earring, and it has the shape of earring. But you call it earring only because you've made it that in your mind, and the collective calls it that, and there's some agreement that it's called earring. But really, there's only gold there. You melt an earring down, and there's gold. So earring, name, earring form is borrowed from gold, the essence. Similarly, the person, the body, the mind, it borrows from the essence. From the one I, there are many. And really, this is like a chandelier of consciousness. So our direct experience of this can move up and down the chandelier, where each crystal, like Indra's net of jewels, if you're familiar with this analogy, reflects the totality, is a representation of the total chandelier, the entirety of it, and is also a part of the chandelier. This is you. Andam Pindam in Tamil. Microcosm, macrocosm. Within you, in the cave of your very own heart, all of existence is. And you simultaneously are in all of existence. Chicken and egg. But for each of us in experience, there is an octave we call world. And in that octave, there's a symphony or a cacophony of other notes. We identified as a note in that octave, bumping up against other notes, sometimes pleasantly, sometimes not so pleasantly. Resonance and dissonance. So, arc of frequency. On that arc, so many fluctuations, and so many fluctuations on the fluctuations. Like the ocean waves. When it's flat calm, pure calm, not even a ripple. This is clear mind, no fluctuations. Some waves rolling, very gentle, heavenly. As the waves grow bigger and start bouncing up against each other, the waves give birth to waves. And the waves on the waves give birth to waves. And the I has the ability somehow to identify as the wave. But you see, there's nothing happening other than ocean. And even ocean is only water. How can this be? Because it seems so real to us, doesn't it? I'm the body, I'm the mind. I think. I believe. I desire. From the point of view of body, hunger. From the point of view of the mind, psychology, relationship. Reflectivity. And you say, I have this sense that there are two of me, that there are three of me. And you experience them. Sometimes you experience them all simultaneously in the now moment. Fully embodied. Fully in the mind, the personality. Fully who I am as me. Fully aware of those two and nothing at all, simultaneously. It's like a layered cake. And the more of an adept you become in, let's call it, vibration management, you can move from note to note, from octave to octave. You can see the score, the music score. This is the fruit of detachment from the wave of the wave of the wave. The fluctuations attenuate. When the fluctuations are so great in the mind, what we see, what we experience, is a product of that. Our world is the fruit of our vibration. So many worlds. It's good news. It's good news. We're not as limited, we're not as bound as we feel we are. We just don't yet fully understand, who am I? So, some practical application maybe. When you're suffering, suffer honestly. Don't be too indulgent in it, and don't suppress it. Suffer honestly. A bit of stoicism, but not too much. So when you're suffering, suffer honestly and ask, who is suffering? Who's suffering? Who's frustrated? one time I had this beautiful visualization. I imagined the globe, that is on a stand, and I was playing around with the octaves of consciousness and learning to shift my vibration to move higher and to view with a broader perspective of things, from a higher vantage point, of a higher vibration of consciousness. And it served me well, because where there's suffering, it's a bit easier. Imagine it this way. This is another one. That there's a metronome, what do you call it? Help me.
Pendulum.
Pendulum, thank you. There's a pendulum, and if you're clinging to the bottom of the pendulum, the wave of the wave of the wave, correspondingly, it's a heck of a ride, isn't it? Way down there at the bottom, so many G's, back and forth, bliss, suffering, right? So we learn to develop increasing mastery over mind and vibration, and to climb up the stem of the pendulum. Because from higher up, it's not so bad. You could say your whole experience becomes vibration management. We could call this love and peace. And it is those things, forgiveness and compassion, as the instruments to reach a higher vibration, where you are not such a rag doll, pulled this way and that way by the forces of mind and nature, relationship. So on this globe, there's the arc that contains the globe on which it spins, yes? I learned we can shift and find, to look from, where am I looking from? To look from different places on this arc. And with some practice of moving to different places on the arc, what does it look like from here? With a kind of a neutral curiosity. At first, maybe it's, I don't want to suffer like this, and you reach higher, fine. But eventually just becoming more easeful, more gentle. What does it look like from here? Shifting where you're looking from. Shifting, who am I? And then you can come to occupy whole patches. I imagine eventually the entire thing. Simultaneously. That.
May I say something?
Yeah. Please.
So, I thought you were finished. I apologize.
No.
In my question, it was very much a question about these levels. And in that question, there was what I now realize there was probably a number of distortions, but a subtle distortion that you just helped me correct, where I was, in the question, I was trying to establish a primacy of one level versus another. And I think you helped me correct that when you were talking about the chicken or the egg versus the egg or the chicken. And I can see now that it was just an example of my mind trying to play the this or that trick. And I had a good long while you were speaking of that, where I realized it is not like that, and I definitely feel a little bit of a transformation from that.
Yeah, very good.
Wow, I'm kind of blown away. So thank you.
Good. Yeah. It's tricky because it's inconceivable. But you can know it by experience. And from there, you could only really attempt to point to it, somehow poetically, perhaps, metaphorically. But it's a funny thing, you know, when the suffering mind gets a hold of Advaita Vedanta or non-dualism, or even neti, via negativa, it can cling to it as a rejection, an aversion to suffering, an aversion to the world. And this is useful. It's not wrong. It's just not right. What is. And the only posture is to soften and allow, to be supple, fluid. To allow for what is to be what it is, including all of the appearances. Even if you come to see the whole thing as a mirage, are you going to try to destroy the mirage?
So it's accurate to say that every level includes all other levels, in which case there are no levels.
Yes. Very good. Yeah. And it will. And so here's the thing. This is important. This inquiry is designed to hopefully gently free you from your mind. The mind, the thinking mind, identified as thinker and thought, cannot conceive of this. And it's a funny thing happens. When my mind is blown, there can be a little tether of the fragile self that freaks out. It's terrifying. Can be terrifying. Whatever is has always been. And so whatever is revealed to you is only revealed. It's always been this way. America existed before Columbus landed. You're sitting in a dark room. At first there's some fear. It's pitch black, nothing to see and nothing to hear. And you just get used to it. Then slowly some light dawns, really gently. And in the corner of the room, you see a tiger is there. It's always been there. Are you afraid? You see, what is. There has never been when isness wasn't. Only there is revelation, recognition, recognizing. All that is hidden will be revealed. And when it's revealed, sometimes it can be very disturbing. Especially when the I that I think I am or thought I was is revealed to me. It's not always such a pleasant recognition, is it? Or through deep inquiry, the world is revealed as there's a part of us that can still be very subtly but strongly identified, noticing the disidentification. And can struggle, like a free fall, it feels like. Nothing to hold on to, nowhere to stand. Jesus says, man has nowhere to rest his head. The birds have the trees, the foxes have their burrows, but man has no place to rest his head. But just like anything in our experience, what's new can be a little scary, challenging. You know, you were dropped off at kindergarten. You had your thesis exam in college if you went to university. You interviewed for your first job. You rode a roller coaster. You learned to ski or rock climb. The first time somebody surfs, it's exhausting and difficult, maybe even painful and scary. But eventually, a master surfer, well, I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube or somewhere, they get towed in to these enormous waves on jet skis. This is how it is with consciousness and the lingering aspects of psyche, of body-mind identification. It's more of a melting away, typically. It's called Laya Yoga, a slow dissolution of the limited identity, we like to call ego or personality. So whatever is revealed to you that might at first startle you or disturb you, or even give you a feeling of exaltation, it's always been there. There's nothing new under the sun. So you can take comfort in this, that what is has always been and will always be. Isness cannot arise from isn'tness. And the fluctuations and the happenings, even with a still mind, these things will continue because there is a we involved. Each one of us in a different body, with a different history, a different mindset and worldview. We're now coming into satsang, where there is a resonance. Very much there is a heart coherence. I suspect many of you can feel it. That we are entrained on each other, and this we is simultaneously an I. You could say that in this satsang, there is a single I overseeing it that experiences it as we, and we experience it as I, part of that we. Have you ever had that experience with somebody, a beloved other perhaps, and something clicks? It's like the presence drops in, and there's the same similarity, a sense of a deep, intimate coherence. Maybe even somebody would call this soulmate. But there's a sense of there's one above pretending to be two and having a conversation. Have you had this experience? It's not inaccurate. It's not just a poetry. But this is true whether there's a resonance or a dissonance. Think of it this way. Tonight, when you fall asleep, the body will fall away to your recognition. The mind will enter dream, will create dream. In that dream, an I sense is created, the hero, protagonist, and all of the characters and the landscape, all things are created in the mind of dreamer. So in your mind, you as sleeper, in your mind, all of these characters are created, and the sense that you are this one character. And all manner of dramas can ensue. And to that one, it seems very real, doesn't it? All kinds of happenings. Really believing that you're the character. What if this waking state is like that? That each of us is simply a fragment of the sleeping mind of God. And tomorrow morning, when you have woken up, where is the dream? The dramas? Where's the suffering or even the sufferer? And I'm sure all of you know there is something called lucid dreaming, where the mind of the sleeper is awake in the dream, aware of the dramas and the relativity of subject-object and not identified in it, and can even perhaps guide or curate an experience. That's a subject for another time, about the wisdom or discernment in that. But what of the one who in the waking state is aware of the we mind and the relative position or the subjective position of the subject called I and objects called you? This lucidity is called happiness. Easefulness. It expresses as peace and love, even compassion. Quick to forgive, adapt, adjust, accommodate. What if it's like that? If it is like that, how would you conduct your tomorrow in the waking state? If you knew, really even just believed, that you're a fragment in the dream of God, and that you are God and all is God, and the space between all is God. God alone exists. How would you conduct your day? What would you do or not do, and how would you do or how would you not do? What would be your relationship with aliveness? How would you operate, navigate? What would you feed, cultivate? And again, it's always been true. It's always been as it is. There's only the degree of what is revealed to the you that you think you are. And what is revealed is based on who that I is. The vibration, the frequency. I think it's a reasonable aspiration to say, I want only to be in total acceptance of what is. I want only to be in total peace, regardless of what presents. The mind will quickly rush in and say, well, who would do anything? Find out. Plenty gets done, more in fact, more efficiently and more productively than the one who's identified as the problem solver. This one is trouble. Troubles you most of all. A reasonable aspiration to be universally accepting of whatever arises. in truth, nothing else makes any sense at all. You see, this is the most practical thing. If it is what it is, and has never been what it isn't, for you to be in non-acceptance is a losing proposition. To say not this is instant suffering, instant failure. Isness is 100%. To bet against it is foolish. You see? Anything short of total acceptance of what is folly. And watch the mind. In this moment, watch your mind and where it goes. Because it's true. It's a bit of a mess, what is. Can seem this way anyway. To most of us it would. And aren't we obligated to try and change it? Accepting what is, 100%, in this moment, what is, and accepting what was, 100%. This is the only sanity. Can't change the past, cannot change the present. From this acceptance, you now can be an effective envoy of consciousness to help shift the future. Coming to tomorrow with a vibration of peace and joy, of love. Not set against anything, but 100% for all things. Unconditionally, ubiquitously. Even in practical terms, in the world, operating as an actor in the world, this is the most effective. If you approach movement, action, problem solving, amelioration of situations, if you approach that from the stillness of total acceptance, you'll be very effective. It will be so much more enjoyable for you. It will be so much more enjoyable for everyone around you. This we, the we soup. And so, if you say, my mind is blown, I don't know what to say, I don't know who I am, you've surrendered even past the point of discomfort in this not knowing. Muji says, don't take shape. Watch for the temptation to touch a wave. Attachment, superimposition, subject-object, attraction, aversion, suffering. Don't touch. Don't take shape. I is universal. But when you come to this recognition of this sense of I that is expansive, gently, softly, watch for the invitations to re-engage, to take form, to get lost in doership. From this place, it's from this place that Mara comes to the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree to tempt him with all manner of pleasantries and to scare him with all manner of horror. A storm comes. You don't touch. At first, it's a practice. You'll see all of the attractions and aversions, all of the desires and the fears. Don't touch. It's rare to come to this place even, and don't be too frustrated if you're not there yet. It comes to each one in their time. But the I that you think you are does not want to release the world, and the world that you think it is will not want to release you. There is a clinging to and a being clung to. And it will appear to you that all kinds of temptations, all kinds of horrors, difficulties, they come. When the dam of the mind finally bursts, the whole of time and space will come rushing through. The tumult, and just like when a dam bursts there, the water is perilous. Trees and tractors and cows and boulders all washing out bridges. It's a great destruction. You maintain a perch from on high. And don't swim in the water until it's clear. What does it say? I'm just on my iPhone, so I can't really see. Would you mind saying, Andrew?
You said at first it's a practice, not touching. I know what you mean, but eventually it evolves from a practice into just effortlessness.
Let's say perhaps it goes from a practice where you're really acutely aware of all of the invitations for pleasure and pain. And so it requires incredible discipline to not touch. And you'll touch over and over and over again. You'll re-engage as the you that you thought you were. You know? It just takes shape, boom, right back in. But you'll pay attention, always aware as the awareness of the back and forth, the disengaging, the re-engaging. Then you will begin to see in that awareness, you'll develop some discernment, some viveka, where you'll see having touched, Hmm? You now are in it. You've objectified yourself as subject to object. And now you're in it, back in attraction and aversion, and you're in the drama again, asleep in the dream. Hmm? And you'll see it happen over and over and over again. Just be very patient and gentle. The frustration itself is, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that discernment turns into something effortless. No longer interested. Hmm? The landscape becomes, you become habituated in increasing emptiness. Hmm? No longer tempted or interested. Hmm?
This is a huge relief. Thank you.
And the effortless takes effort. It takes great effort for one to enter the effortless. This is just how it is. Soft and supple, but really disciplined. And it's like anything else you've ever done in your life. You just get better at it. The first time you rode a bike, very different than hopping on a bike now. Or drove a car. Or like we said before, surfed. Here's the thing. It never really feels so very special. You will always just feel like, I am what I am. This is how it is to be me. You know, you learn to drive a car, and maybe you were really proud to have your driver's license and pass the exam and take somebody out on a date or drive to the movies, you know, and this was really big and special. But now it just gets you where you're going, the car, doesn't it? You don't feel proud to be a driver. So from this place, this is a direct experience, a proprioceptive, experiential sense of I that is shifted out of limitation. It happens by degree for most of us. And so the good news is, however good it feels to be this level of free, more is on its way. Don't take shape. This one, who is empty, even relatively empty, this one is alive. Not looping in the past. Alive, vibrant, alert, and very intimate with life itself. somehow devoted. You know, at first I remember I was so surprised to learn that great Advaitins like Ramana Maharshi, it's kind of I don't know, maybe I felt like at the time it was a little known secret. It makes so much sense now, but all, as far as I understand, devotees to the mother. Bhaktis. If the yani hasn't come to bhakti, if the contemplative hasn't come to love, if truth hasn't revealed itself as love, you're not there yet. Keep going. So much debate between in Hindu, Shiva and Krishna, the hierarchy. It's fine. The Advaitin has no disdain for duality. The path up the mountain of inquiry, of jnana, at the peak, that one is a bhakti. The bhakti that climbs up the other side of the mountain, at the peak, that one is a yani. Existence, knowledge, bliss. Love, truth, devotion. So leave the debate to everyone else. You see for yourself. Ali, tell me what you wrote.
These words have been so clarifying, and I've used the word practice, and I realized from there is habit, and from there is what is, the way it is. It reminds me of unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence. No, unconscious no. What is that? Conscious competence to unconscious competence.
Natural.
That makes
Yeah.
yes.
Natural.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. This consciousness, the way you're using it, is sort of what we commonly think of as consciousness, which is a reflective consciousness. And in the expression of the truth and of love, it is the natural state. Everything else is all of a sudden appears as an aberration. Unnecessary, but not so much a problem. Just like watching the terrible waves and the waves on the waves from a helicopter. Like, not so bad. Kind of beautiful, actually. Or experiencing it submerged in the ocean, aware of the tumult, but unmoved by it. Yes. Really great. Thank you, Ali. Don't let frustration seep in. Be okay with where you are right now. Most of you probably perceive yourselves at a particular point on a path to a destination. So from that understanding, be okay with exactly where you are. This is the fast way. Cherish the frustration when it arises. Oh, isn't that sweet? This aspect of me wants God so much. Be okay with wherever you are. So if what we're talking about isn't resonating or you haven't tasted it yet, it's like a movie trailer. Coming this summer. You know? Just get excited because it's on its way. And you can't bring August any faster. It's coming when it's coming. Just take solace in knowing that it's coming for you. You also, who you think you are, where you think you are, is part of this same isness. This self-acceptance is imperative. And be grateful when you notice self-judgment. There it is again. I'm so happy to see it. The sooner you can swaddle your suffering in the perfection of God, of what is, the faster you will come to know what is not suffering. The faster you will emerge from the limitations of suffering itself. It's so against the grain to everything we've been taught and everything we tell ourselves. But truly, all you need to ever know is soften and allow. In every moment, with all things, especially with your own sense of who you are, soften and allow. This teaching, those two words, soften and allow, will guide you through the entire. I was walking in the woods many years ago, having only recently opened up to a dialogue to the still small voice, the inner voice, and it said this very clearly as I was in the woods: soften and allow. And in that moment, I knew it was the key to everything. And it remains my most steadfast practice today. Has ushered me through so many challenges. Has ushered me past any sort of pride or exaltation of revelation of spiritual ego, and continues to. Whatever is, including you, is perfect. And when you surrender into that, a great quickening will happen. Striving will slow everything down. And even this is so hard, is a practice in and of itself. Because there's so much momentum. The me has so much momentum. Like a cargo ship. So slow to change course. So slow to stop. Be okay with it. And anyway, it only makes sense. Who could you be other than what you are? To thine own self be true. In every moment. And allow for the fluidity of what you perceive as thine own self. The truth of thine own self to you a year ago is different than it is today. Will be different tomorrow. Soften into the fluidity of the I sense. This surrender will bring you home so much faster. Okay. Maybe we can just take a moment to be our own well-wisher. To be intentionally loving, self-compassionate. And drink that in. A full acceptance of how you feel, what you think, who you are. Now allow that to overflow to everybody in our satsang right now. That all that is good and right in you is now overflowing. And you're sharing it with everybody in satsang. And now receive it. And now share it. And receive it. And the love that you are is the love that you share. Is the love that you receive. is the love that you share and receive. Om. Thank you, thank you. Love you. One of the great things about an hour and a half of satsang for me is for an hour and a half, I'm not sick.
Love you, love you.
Love you. Sleep well.